You're watching a Highwire Media podcast. Welcome to a special edition of Friday Flicks. This week, of course, we're reviewing Transformers 1. Before we do that, give us a thumbs up if you like our video, hit that subscribe button down below, and hit the bell notification to be notified of future videos. And with that, let's dive into our review of Transformers 1. We're living in a renaissance for animated films based on toys and comics that manage to both dazzle and dig deeper. The Spider-Verse films and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem recently reinvigorated their respective heroes with both visual and narrative panache that was pitched at and landed with longtime fans and newcomers alike. In that way, Transformers 1, which has been in the works since around the time of the first Spider-Verse movie was first announced, feels late to the party and far less self-assured. Taking a cue from the eye-popping Statcast of 1986's The Transformers the Movie, which featured the voices of legends including Orson Welles, Leonard Nimoy, and Scatman Crothers, Transformers 1's robots are brought to life by high-profile talent like Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, John Hamm, Lawrence Fishburne, and Steve Buscemi. The obvious standout from that impressive roster is Henry's D-16, whose pain and grievance with the system on the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron pushes him down his dark path towards becoming the villainous Megatron. Henry's conviction and emotional vulnerability regularly steal scenes and frequently represents the only real humanity Transformers 1 has to offer, which, for the record, is even more important when there are no actual humans around. The script doesn't do D-16's arc many favors, with his nuanced feelings about Cybertron's story defender Sentinel Prime, completely flattened out by a plot that's too busy juggling a fetch quest and a razor-thin political conspiracy to reliably keep the narrative train on the tracks. All that Cybertron lore and backstory can be interesting at times, but none if it's covered with enough depth or novelty to feel fresh. Transformers 1 is designed to be accessible to audiences with all levels of familiarity with the robots in disguise. But for anyone who paid any attention to Michael Bay's first 3 live-action Transformer films, the movie throws warning flags by choosing MacGuffins that render almost every turn of the story a foregone conclusion. Chris Hemsworth's Orion Pax begins the story quite far from the Optimus Prime we know he'll become, with little direction or motivation to get him there, even though his journey from Robo-Miner to Robo-Messiah doesn't feel all that well drawn. In spite of some nice, bassy exposition from Lawrence Fishburne's Alpha Trion, Hemsworth does good work evolving his performance over the course of the 104-minute runtime to account for the gravitas and responsibility that comes with his growing status. Starting off as a powerless Energon miner, Orion Pax's good nature makes his ascension to Prime status somewhat gratifying, more so as the big climatic battle approaches. It may not surprise you to hear that transformation is a major theme, but that's something Transformer 1 communicates by telling us, not showing us, or making us feel it. Still, it successfully builds out the relationship between Orion Pax and the friend he calls D. Mining the fuel that drives life on Cybertron is dangerous work, and an early near-disaster sets up the close bond between D-16 and Orion Pax. D is all about following the rules. Orion is a lot more loose in the way that those personality types first complement, then clash with each other, produce some good tension here and there. Key's B-127 scores a few laughs with his stir-crazy enthusiasm for his new gang, but B's usefulness to the story is spent immediately, turning what could have been an effective cameo into a distraction from the more prominent bots. Most of Transformer 1's humor is pretty basic, broad enough for everyone to be in on the joke, but generally nothing that rises above quippy, robot-themed banter. The shortest end of the stick for characterization goes to Scarlett Johansson's Alita 1 for reasons that have little to do with her performance. The Black Widow star has turned in plenty of strong voice performances. Her and The Jungle Book immediately come to mind, but Alita is drawn here as a caricature of a girl boss devoid of any real personality traits other than stern, playing one of the only 2 female Cybertronians in the movie, in the unviable position of basically having to shout at the boys to stop getting them into trouble for the whole 104-minute runtime. Transformer 1's world and characters pull heavily from the original Generation 1 era. Straight lines, wide curves, and smooth, shiny faces everywhere. and perhaps befitting how closely it recreates the look of the toys, Transformers 1 looks best at rest in dialogue scenes or the few moments of contemplation invited by Cybertron's vaporwave sunset. The sun slipping below the horizon may be the coolest shot pulled off by director Josh Cooley, and I promise I haven't forgotten to include the transforming robots in that calculation. Transformers 1 splits its time between the subterranean capital icon and Cybertron's abandoned surface, with the more interesting scenes taking place underground and the more interesting visuals captured above. On the musical front, Brian Tyler's score barely registers, generically orchestral with rote touches of electronica that elevate neither the drama or action. Setting the story entirely on Cybertron raises the question of how well a Transformers movie can function without humans there to draw a contrast to the future Autobots and Decepticons. It's not just because of the illogical quandaries that abound, like why is it that Orion Pax can turn into a big rig billions of years before any sort of truck would be invented. Transformers 1's entire sense of perspective suffers for not having meatbags around for scale. It's a problem from the opening moments when we see Orion Pax climbing up a building to sneak into an archive for information on the lost primes. He's quickly caught by guards who are much bigger than him, but how big is Orion to begin with? The scale issue is that it's most egregious during Transformers 1's chases, races, and all-out robot warfare, which it deploys at all the expected moments. The action may be flashy and fast-paced, but good luck keeping track of what's actually going on. While the most famous Transformers silhouettes are all stark and in keeping with what you'll imagine those characters will look like, the action is largely captured by the virtual camera in a way that turns everything into a blur of nondescript robot bodies crashing against alien landscapes and architecture. Having any sort of means of comparison becomes critical in these moments as you're trying to understand things like where your heroes are, how fast they're going, and in what direction basics that Transformers 1 doesn't always account for. There are times where the battles feel like a kid slamming two Transformer toys together, and I say that with the lived experience of having done the very same thing. But at least in that instance I could keep track of what was going on, who was involved, what was at stake, and where my fruit roll-up was in relation to the plastic carnage. Sadly, you can't always say the same for Transformers 1. So for my verdict, Transformers 1's core duo of Orion Pax and D16 and the fallout of their broken friendship provide an occasional spark, but despite the efforts of impressive voice cast and standout performances from Brian Tyree Henry, the animated origin story rarely shows anything more than meets the eye. Its G1-inspired aesthetic is cool in small doses, but Transformers 1 regularly fumbles trying to follow its transforming robots throughout the action, though the tragedy of Optimus Prime and Megatron's storied rivalry could have felt larger than life. Transformers 1 is mostly content with half-hearted puns and barely legible Cybertronian battles that could have used some major transforming before rolling out. And before we wrap up this episode, we'd like to highlight our affiliate of the episode, which is Audible. Whether you're a movie buff, TV show addict, or just love getting lost in a great story, I've got something that's going to take your entertainment game to the next level. And that is Audible. Imagine diving deeper into your favorite worlds with audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals that expand on the stories you love. Whether it's behind-the-scenes secrets, original stories from your favorite creators, or adaptations of hit series, Audible has it all. And guess what? Audible is giving my supporters a free 30-day trial. Just head over to audibletrial.com/Larry21 and sign up today. You'll get one free audiobook that's yours to keep forever, plus full access to Audible's premium selection. Right now, I'm hooked on The Sandman, an incredible Audible original that brings Neil Gaiman's iconic graphic novel to life with an all-star cast. It's like a blockbuster movie for your ears. So what are you waiting for? Go to audibletrial.com/Larry21, grab your free audiobook, and get ready to experience entertainment like never before. You're going to love it. And with that, we'd like to remind you, if you want to support the channel even more, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. And of course, let me know your thoughts on Transformers 1 in the comments section below. Did you guys like it? Or do you think it was overrated? What problems did you have with it? Let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.